and it is a pleasure to be in this presentation. It is an honor to be here with you. I am from Costa Rica, which is a small country located in Central America, and our popular saying is pura vida, which means everything to us. Like, pura vida means I'm fine, I'm okay, I don't feel well. It means everything to us. And pura vida is translated as pure life. Today in this presentation, I will talk about social media, Costa Rican remote learning tools in times of COVID-19. I will start this presentation by sharing a little bit of my background. So my academic background is in teaching English as a second and foreign language, literacy, and digital literacies. My research interests include the incorporation of mobile devices in the second foreign language, classrooms, digital literacies, and technology integration in the teaching practice. I have been teaching for over 18 years English as a foreign language to primary school and college students in Costa Rica. I got my doctoral degree in literacy at Sam Houston State University in 2020, where I taught college to college students as a research teaching assistant for over 5 years. I would like to share with you an anecdote that I watched in an interview. Mark Zuckerberg, the creator of Facebook, was once asked if he would post the name of the hotel where he was staying at. And he said, never. Interesting. It can be said that privacy will be luxury because most of the people's information is out there, and we may not know what they are doing with it. So just think about it. As you know, with the beginning of the pandemic caused by COVID-19, the world entered into chaos. There was a lot of fear and confusion. We never imagined this could ever happen in our time period. We may have heard Bill Gates talking about the necessity to prepare for a pandemic, but we thought that that was far from our reality. We were mistaken. The pandemic abruptly changed the way we were living our lives. It changed everything. COVID-19 changed the way traditional education was taught worldwide. Hundreds of millions of students, including Costa Ricans, were confined to their homes. This abruptly changed the education's landscape and dynamics. Stakeholders, which includes school administrators, teachers, students, and parents, transitioned from a face-to-face education to a remote learning modality. 1.2 million students from Costa Rica at university, secondary, elementary, and kindergarten level were sent homes to prevent the spread of COVID-19. This caused an imminent disruption of the traditional activities which negatively impacted their educational process. This caused fear, leading to despair, uncertainty, and chaos among stakeholders. However, prompt actions were taken by the educational authorities to deliver online content and reach out to all students. Educational institutions created official websites and applications to enable students continue their education. For instance, the Ministry of Education, which is called MEP, adopted Microsoft Teams as the main platform to have students and teachers continue with distance learning. Other private and public institutions in higher level implemented e-learning for the dissemination of information and communication to support professors and students during the pandemic. However, not even the Ministry of Education of Costa Rica was prepared to face this chaotic situation. The MEP took extreme measures to quickly prepare teachers and school administrators to transition from face-to-face to a remote learning environment. This abrupt change was not easy nor smooth. Stakeholders have to find and adapt resources and technological tools to equip learners continue with their education. And this created different challenges. For instance, lack of infrastructure, technological resources, and connectivity problems. These were the challenges that many teachers and students faced. The MEP could not provide all Costa Rican students or a household with a digital device to have learners receive or complete online learning assignments. Additionally, not all the regions of the country had the appropriate infrastructure to provide reliable internet connectivity to every household in Costa Rica. This situation increased the digital divide in our country, since the ones who could have better access to internet and digital devices were the students living in urban areas. Students living in rural and remote areas did not have the infrastructure or resources, which translated in less quality and access to education. This amplified the educational gap among Costa Rican students. Lack of digital competencies added another challenge to continue with remote learning, not only of teachers, but students and parents. When teachers transitioned from a face-to-face to an online teaching and learning environment, they lacked the digital skills to successfully incorporate technology in their teaching practices. They had a lot of problems aligning the pedagogical objectives and learning activities using technology. Only 12.7% of the total population of teachers in Costa Rica use the ICTs for educational purposes before the pandemic and at the same time during the pandemic. Others relied on sending packages with information to students and trusted that parents would help them to complete the assignments. Parents became the teachers in this case. This graphic shows the internet connectivity disparity in Costa Rican households. For instance, students with fiber optic connectivity are the ones in high-income homes or settings. In comparison to low socioeconomic settings, most of the students did not have internet connection and they connected only using their cell phones and sometimes using their data packages that were limited. This is another graphic that represents data from a survey administered to teachers about their digital competencies, professional development, and pedagogical activities during COVID-19. Data demonstrated that teachers' ICT skills development was precarious. Less than 50% of the teachers had received training about the use of ICTs and its safe and critical usage for education. All the previous led to an educational blackout in Costa Rica. COVID-19 aggravated the educational situation of thousands of students who were not already receiving quality education. This positioned vulnerable populations even more at risk, since their educational process has been affected by the pandemic. According to PISA 2018, The international benchmark test to determine mathematics, science, and literacy skills development in students, in high school students worldwide, stated that Costa Rican students had a low development of literacy competencies. Students were also reluctant to read or had trouble with reading comprehension skills. The pandemic worsened this situation among students. The pandemic shed light on the continuous unsolved problems that different educational institutions still have in Costa Rica, and I bet that around the world as well. Educational authorities should approach these challenges to provide quality and equity among citizens, not only of Costa Rica, but around the world. Everything will be all right. I trust you, teacher. So based on this image, education in Costa Rica relies on the hands of stakeholders who should provide quality education to students from diverse socioeconomic settings and backgrounds. But are we prepared to do so? All children have the right to receive good education. But this is not the reality, at least not in my country. So I'm going to talk about the role of social media during COVID-19 in the educational process in Costa Rica, the need to make informed decisions when using social media for educational purposes. COVID-19 crisis has resulted in the usage of digital platforms not only for entertainment purposes, but also for educational and corporate reasons. Hence, the spread of information increased excessively on every social media platform. Social media apps played a crucial role. They enable teachers, students, and academic institutions to change their teaching or learning methods in a bid to overcome COVID-19 induced restrictions. I would like to share these important facts about today's digital world. This is gonna provide a little bit of background and give us perspective about the rapid increment of social media use due to COVID-19. More than two-thirds of the world's population uses a mobile phone today. There are now 4.88, almost 5 billion of internet users around the world, which equates to almost 62% of the world's population. The latest data show that global internet user numbers have increased by more than 220 million over the past year. And social media users increased by more than 400 million. So 400 new users of social media over the past 12 months to reach 4.55 billion in October 2021. And just for context, the world's population reached 7.89 billion, almost 8 billion, at the start of October 2021, representing an increase of roughly 80 million people compared with this time last year. And based on all the previous information, it is necessary to ask ourselves if we are aware of how to navigate in these platforms, especially when we use them for educational purposes. Because we are using social media a lot, and not only for entertainment, but educational purposes. This graphic represents what I said before. There are now more than 4.5 billion social media users around the world. That figure is more than 400 million higher than it was this time last year. And there are current trends that suggest that social media users will still pass the equivalent of 60% of the world's total population sometime in the first half of 2022. The social media users as percentage of the global population represents 57.6%. And the time people spend using social media daily is 2 hours and 27 minutes, but I believe it's more. And the average of numbers of platforms used by each user of internet is 6.7. This graphic also represents the media usage over the last year. The increase has been incredible, almost 2 quarters in the last year. In this graphic, it shows that Facebook is the most popular platform among users worldwide. Almost 3 billion of people are using Facebook. 2.91 billion are using YouTube. 2 billion are using WhatsApp. And the use of these platforms overlap by users. It's just like to think about Facebook that is being used by 3 billion people. I cannot even believe it. I can't even wrap it around my head. Educators in Costa Rica were hosting classroom sessions on Facebook Live, for example. They were also learning how to use Instagram and TikTok to create resources and content for the students, because now TikTok is very popular among the young generations. However, one of the most used platforms is WhatsApp because it was convenient. Teachers sent information to students and parents to complete the different educational practices, and it is still happening in today in Costa Rica. I still use WhatsApp. It is important to say that many of these social tools were not developed for students or any educational purposes and are unlikely to be compliant with students' privacy laws and best practices. Having students to use social media places them in a sensitive spot, since they may not know how to set the boundaries or establish the differences between the use of social media for their academic or personal lives. Here, this graph shows the social media tools used by Costa Rican teachers. WhatsApp is the one that they mostly use. Then social media, las redes sociales like Facebook, then Skype, Zoom, Moodle, Google Classroom, Google Meet, and Teams. But some of the two main issues that are really important about the use of social media arise: privacy issues and misinformation. In this case, the role of stakeholders is crucial to prepare not only teachers, students, and parents to know how to navigate on social media platforms safely, responsibly, and mindfully. Let's see. Let's ask these questions to ourselves. How much does your social media know about you? Think about that. How many social media platforms do you have? Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Snapchat, WhatsApp, any other? YouTube. Does the information you share on social media and public platforms put you at risk? Think about that. What do you present to other people? What do you post on these social media platforms? Let's think for a moment. Probably many of you have said yes, or maybe you have said no. For me, it is totally fine. But these are really good questions to ask to your students, to your friends, or the people around you. Let's look at this comic. Care to rephrase that last statement? I do. I have my own blog now. Kids are using even blogs. It's just like very interesting for me. So this is a picture that depicts what Facebook does with their users. And here I would like you to read this, or I'm going to read this to you. Though you may think social platforms collect and share only the data you provide, cookies, third-party apps, and data mining companies are able to track additional information and invade your privacy. Do kids know this? Do young students know this? Do adults know this? For instance, Facebook creates consumer profiles based on 98 data points, including income, net worth, and number of credit lines, to create targeted ads. So basically, different companies, you are a target for different companies because they want to sell you things. Also, Facebook determines your interests, like political party, based on your activity on and off Facebook, the famous Cambridge Analytica that doesn't exist anymore. And Facebook reads your messages and does not automatically encrypt your messages like WhatsApp, but I'm still doubting about that. You have to opt in to a secret messages on Messenger. So what we share is encrypted. Are we sure that the people are getting only the person we or people we are sending information is getting that information, or are there other people tracking that information and storing that information? It's kind of tricky and it's kind of scary at the same time. So this is a picture or a graphic from UNESCO site that represents another issue using social media, the consumption of misinformation. When we do not have the appropriate literacy and critical thinking skills to digest and filter all the amount of information we find on social media, it is detrimental. It can be detrimental to have an assertive, incredible point of view. We can be easily manipulated. We can be easily manipulated if we don't have critical thinking skills, or if we don't digest or dissect that information, or if we don't compare different sources. We need to read critically. And it makes me wonder. It makes me wonder about the teachers who lack digital competencies and students who lack literacy skills and digital competencies when they are using social media. It's kind of scary, as I said. Stakeholders should be able to identify sources of information that are safe, reliable, and accountable. Let's think about what we want our students learn and how interpret that information. As I said, social media had a lot of different benefits. It helped us to continue with remote learning and teaching. But at the same time, it is important to know what social media does to make informed decisions. Social media is and will be with us for a long time, for the rest of our lives. This is a fact, and we need to ensure that future generations, it doesn't matter where they come from, if they come from low socioeconomic status or high socioeconomic status, they need to be able to learn how to navigate through those digital spaces safely. And it is our responsibility to do that, to teach them and to learn. So this graphic shows what we should do when using Facebook, for example. And because of the time, I'm just going to show this about Facebook. It is necessary, for example, when we use Facebook, to log out of every device. We may have more than one device. For example, I have 2 or 3 devices. And in all of them, I have Facebook or any other social media. So it is important to have, for example, kids or different students from different age levels to log out after using these devices, for example, if they are using it for educational purposes. Also, it is necessary to have a two-factor authentication, sorry. We do not know if someone wants to steal our identity or personal information that is relevant for them for their own purposes. Your information is valuable, so be careful. Know what Facebook is tracking about you. All of your information is valuable, as I said. Every individual should know what other people are tracking from them. So think about that. We don't want to be manipulated or misled by the information they collect from us. Delete all the cookies and read the small print letters. It is necessary to read what we are getting involved into. Teachers and students should know what other people are doing with their information. It is our right. It is our right to have our own information. Um, I really recommend a documentary about privacy issues. I don't know if you have Netflix, but Netflix has a very good documentary about that. Also, turn off facial recognition. Artificial intelligence is a huge trend nowadays. We should know what implies that mobile devices recognize who we are by recognizing our facial features. It's or the tone of our voice. It's just mind blowing. Personalize your experience. You can do this on your own and limit what you want other people to see about you on your Facebook account. This is extremely important if you only want to share limited information or just information that the teachers or other people need to know, not everything about you. Set up a login verification. This is in case someone is trying to log in and steal your information. And delete apps that you don't use on your cell phone. They are still collecting information through their cookies. Did you read all the app's terms and conditions that you have on your phone? Not me. And I should do it. Disable the location. I prefer doing this since I still want to have a sense of privacy. It is my choice to show where I am or not. So for me, that is my choice, and I like to do that. This is a way not to give power to other people over me, over my choices. And these are some recommendations for social media when you use social media for education. Social media has different privacy policies and regulations for general audiences, but they are not addressed to educational audiences. Therefore, as a best practice, schools should create policies regarding whether educators may use social media for online learning or not. Now that we are transitioning from online to a face-to-face environment, especially in Costa Rica. If allowed for elementary and secondary levels, parents and students should be aware of the type of information posted on these platforms, especially if it is going to be available or accessible for the general public, and what consequences this might bring to your kids or to your students or family members. Additionally, it is of utmost importance that students, teachers, and parents know exactly what data the platform collects, including metadata. This information might be sensitive and extremely private. Therefore, it is necessary that teachers inform students how to interact and how their participation will be when using social media. There are other recommendations like to establish regulations based on the educational and social scenarios, provide continuous professional development to teachers. Teachers need a lot of support from educational authorities. It is necessary to give follow-ups, establish effective channels of communication, promote action research in the educational classrooms to get relevant information that may help other teachers make informed decisions in their classrooms. Inform about the risks and benefits of using social media, not only for educational purposes, but for general use. And incorporate critical thinking strategies about how to use social media responsibly in your classrooms or in your pedagogical mediation. So these are some of the sources I used for this presentation. But here I have, I'm gonna send my email. I think I didn't write my email. So I will send my